Gee, can you hear it? The wind is speaking again. It calls us to remember the balance between giving and gratitude. Like, subscribe, and join us beneath the stars, where the whispers of the Kachina spirit still sing. The sun rose slowly over the painted cliffs of the Hopi Desert, casting long shadows across a village of sun-baked clay homes. The air shimmered with heat and the promise of something sacred. Today was no ordinary day. It was the festival of the Kachina, the time when the people gave thanks to the spirits of wind, rain, and mountain, and when the children received the carved dolls that connected their world to the unseen one. Little Tawa, a boy of only 10 summers, ran barefoot through the red dust, his heart full of excitement. His dark hair danced in the breeze as he passed the market where women painted pottery with spiral designs and men carved figures of the Kachinas, each doll a symbol of a spirit's power. Some had eagle wings, some bore masks of clouds or stars, but one caught his eye more than all the rest. It was smaller than the others. Carved from sacred cedar, its surface smooth as river stone. The doll wore a mask painted sky blue, with tiny white feathers crowning its head. Its eyes were not painted like the rest. They were made from shimmering turquoise stones, glowing softly in the sunlight. Tawa stopped and whispered, "You're different. Are you a spirit too?" The old craftsman, Grandfather Una, looked up from his tools. "Ah, you have a keen eye, little one," he said, smiling gently. "That doll is not for sale. It's an offering carved to honor the spirit of the whispers. It listens to the wind." Tawa tilted his head. "It listens." Una nodded, his wrinkles deepening. "Some spirits speak through the wind, through dreams, through the rustle of leaves, but only those with a pure heart can hear them." Tawa's gaze stayed on the doll. He didn't know why, but he felt the pull of something ancient, like a soft hum beneath his chest. As he walked away, he could still feel its turquoise eyes following him. By afternoon, the festival began. Drums echoed through the canyon, and dancers painted in bright colors moved in slow circles, their masks representing the Kachina's guardians of the earth. The smell of roasting corn filled the air, mingled with chants that rose toward the crimson cliffs. Tawa stood near the sacred fire, clutching the small pouch of cornmeal he had brought as his offering. He wanted to give thanks for the rains that had watered their fields, though the rains had been few lately. Still, he believed. When the music slowed, Grandfather Una approached the sacred altar with the cedar doll wrapped in cloth. He placed it before the fire and murmured a prayer in the old tongue. The flames flickered higher for a brief moment, glowing blue at the edges, and for just a second, Tawa thought he heard something. A whisper, soft, almost too faint to notice, like the sigh of wind through a canyon. Tawa. He spun around, eyes wide. "Who's there?" But there was only the fire, crackling quietly. The people continued their prayers, unaware. That night, the festival ended, and the desert grew quiet again. The stars spread across the black sky like spilled diamonds. Tawa lay awake in his small clay room, watching the shadows dance on the ceiling. The sound of the wind outside made him uneasy. It wasn't just blowing, it was calling. Slowly, he got up and stepped outside. The moon was high, silver and cold. The village slept, except for the faint coo of an owl perched on the rooftop. The doll, the cedar doll, sat upon the altar, alone. The wind stirred, and Tawa swore the feathers on its head moved slightly. He crept closer, his heart pounding. The turquoise eyes caught the moonlight and seemed to glimmer. Then, very faintly, a voice brushed against his ear like the breath of air itself. "Find the lost dance, and balance will return." Tawa froze, the words echoing in his chest. He looked around, trembling. No one was there, only the whisper, fading into the distance. He clutched the doll, not out of fear but wonder. Something deep within him knew that this was not a dream. The Kachina spirits had spoken. And somewhere beyond the desert, beyond the cliffs and stars, they were waiting for him to listen. The night air was cool, carrying with it the soft hum of the desert. Crickets sang from the dry grass, and the wind traced invisible patterns across the sand. Yet within the stillness, something else stirred, a whisper that wasn't born of nature, but of spirit. Tawa sat upright in his bed, eyes wide and alert. His small room was bathed in moonlight, the white glow spilling across the clay walls. He had tried to sleep, but the words from earlier still echoed in his mind. "Find the lost dance, and balance will return." He whispered the phrase again to himself, unsure whether he had truly heard it or only imagined it. But as the silence deepened, the faintest murmur floated through the window, the same soft voice, calling gently. Tawa. He rose quietly, his bare feet padding against the cool floor. His mother and father slept in the next room, their soft breathing steady. Not wanting to wake them, Tawa slipped outside into the night. The village looked different under the moon. The clay homes glowed pale silver, and the fire pit in the center still smoldered with faint embers. A thin layer of mist hung low over the ground, swirling around his ankles like ghostly ribbons. Tawa's gaze drifted toward the sacred altar, where the Kachina doll had been placed after the festival. The same turquoise-eyed figure rested there, motionless yet alive, as if listening to the wind. And there it was again, the whisper, soft, gentle, almost like a song. "Listen to the wind, child of earth. The dance is lost, and the balance fades." Tawa's heart thudded in his chest. He stepped closer. Who are you? He asked into the empty air. Are you the Kachina spirit? The wind lifted slightly, rustling his hair. The turquoise eyes on the doll seemed to shimmer brighter, reflecting the moonlight like tiny lakes. A voice, neither male nor female, young nor old, answered him. We are the Whispers, keepers of the breath between worlds. Long ago, your people danced beneath the stars, and their songs fed the sky. But the dance was forgotten, and now the land grows silent. Tawa's fingers tightened around the doll. He wanted to understand, but everything felt too big, too sacred for him. Why me? He asked softly. I'm just a boy. The wind swirled again, brushing against his cheek like a tender hand. Because you listened, the whisper faded, leaving the night strangely still. The only sound now was the gentle rush of wind across the mesa. Tawa felt something stir deep inside him, not fear, but a calling, a sense that he had been chosen for something beyond his understanding. He sat before the altar and stared at the stars. They shimmered like eyes watching him from the heavens. In their patterns, he thought he could see faint shapes, figures of dancers, spinning and flowing with the wind. He closed his eyes, and suddenly, the vision grew clearer. He saw a great circle of people dressed in feathers and masks, moving in rhythm under a red sunset. Their drums echoed across the valley, calling the rain and the spirits. But slowly, one by one, the dancers vanished into shadows, leaving only dust and silence. Tawa gasped and opened his eyes. His heart raced. The vision was gone, but its echo lingered. The doll still rested in his lap, glowing softly, as if to remind him that what he saw was not just a dream. Then, something strange happened. The wind shifted direction, now coming from the cliffs beyond the village, carrying a low, haunting tone like the sound of distant flutes. It was as if the desert itself was singing to him. Tawa stood and looked toward the horizon. There, far beyond the sleeping village, the spirit mesa loomed, a flat-topped mountain glowing faintly in the moonlight. He had always been told that no one should go there. It was said to be the place where the Kachina spirits once danced before disappearing into the clouds. But tonight, it looked alive. The whisper returned, one last time, softer than a sigh. Find the lost dance, morning light and poured gently over the desert. Tawa held the doll close to his shades of gold and rose. He didn't know how or when, had quieted, but he knew what he had to do. The memory of the whispers tomorrow, still when the sun rose in Tawa's heart, he could not forget the mesa alone, soft, if he had to dot above him. Ancient shooting star streaked as the village stirred awake, vanishing wandered toward the central well, though he couldn't where the elders often gathered shadows of the mesa. Something the smell of cornmeal and sage drifted through the air as women prepared breakfast and the men checked the fields. The people spoke of crops, of weather, of everyday things, but Tawa's thoughts were far away, drifting toward the spirit mesa. He needed answers. At the edge of the square sat Elder Nokomi, the oldest and wisest of all. Her silver hair shimmered in the sun, and her eyes were deep and calm, like still water that had seen every storm. She sat beneath a mesquite tree, carving small stones into symbols of protection. Tawa approached her quietly, holding the cedar Kachina doll close to his chest. Grandmother Nokomi, he said softly, may I ask you something? The elder smiled without looking up. You may always ask, little Tawa. The wind told me you would come. Her words made him pause. You knew. I felt it last night, she replied, finally meeting his gaze. The desert whispered again after so many years of silence. Tawa sat beside her. The doll spoke to me. It said the dance is lost, and that I must find it. Nokomi's eyes darkened with memory. Ah, she murmured. Then the prophecy has awakened. The prophecy? Tawa leaned closer. Please tell me, grandmother, what does it mean? Nokomi placed her carving aside and folded her hands. Long ago, before even my grandmother's time, the Kachina spirits walked among our people. They came with the rain and the thunder, teaching us how to live in balance with the land. The people honored them through the dance of harmony, a sacred ritual that kept the worlds of humans and spirits connected. Her voice grew quieter, as though the memory itself was fragile. But over time, greed crept into the hearts of men. The people danced, not for gratitude, but for favor. They asked for more rain, more harvest, more power. And so, the spirits grew silent. One by one, they returned to the mountains, and the dance was lost. From that day on, drought and discord took their place. Tawa listened, his eyes wide. So the lost dance, it was real. Nokomi nodded. Yes, child, the prophecy says that when the earth grows weary and the whispers return, a heart untouched by pride will be chosen to hear them, to seek the lost dance and restore balance once more. Tawa's hands trembled around the doll. And you think that's me? The elder smiled faintly. You are young, but the spirits do not measure age. They measure the purity of one's spirit. The Kachina see you, Tawa. They have called you because you listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. A warm wind passed between them, carrying a faint chime from the clay bells hanging in the trees. The sound was gentle, yet haunting, like a reminder from the unseen world. But grandmother, Tawa whispered, how can I find a dance that's been forgotten for centuries? Nokomi looked toward the distant mesa, her eyes glinting. Follow the wind. It knows the way. The spirits of the mesa remember what men have forgotten. But be careful, my child, not all whispers come from the light. There are others that dwell in the shadows, jealous of life, longing to twist the sacred into sorrow. Tawa swallowed hard, his courage flickering like a flame in the wind. If the shadows try to stop me, what should I do? Nokomi reached into her pouch and handed him a small woven talisman, made of turquoise beads and eagle feathers. Carry this. It will remind the spirits of who you are, a child of balance. And never forget, Tawa, the dance is not just movement. It is the heartbeat of the world. To find it, you must first listen to your own. Tawa bowed his head. Thank you, grandmother. I won't fail them. As he stood and turned to leave, the wind rose again, swirling around the tree and lifting Nokomi's gray hair like silver threads in sunlight. Her voice followed him softly, carried by the breeze. Go to the spirit mesa, child. The first step of the dance waits for you there. Tawa glanced once more at the towering cliffs in the distance, glowing beneath the morning sun. Somewhere beyond those rocks, the spirits were waiting, and so was his destiny. The sun was barely above the horizon when Tawa began his journey. The desert stretched before him like an endless ocean of gold and rust, its silence broken only by the cry of distant hawks. In his small satchel, he carried a pouch of cornmeal, the woven talisman from Elder Nokomi, and the cedar Kachina doll, whose turquoise eyes still glimmered faintly in the light. The path to the spirit mesa was one few dared to travel. The elders said it was a place where the veil between worlds grew thin, where whispers could become voices and shadows could take shape. Yet Tawa felt no fear, only a pull deep within him, like the wind itself was guiding his steps. As he walked, the sun climbed higher, turning the desert into a shimmering sea of heat. His bare feet left faint prints in the sand. Cactus blossoms swayed beside him, their pink petals glowing like embers. For hours he walked, the world around him silent except for the sigh of the wind, until that, too, began to change. At first, he thought he heard the faint sound of a flute, distant, hollow, carried through the air. Then came a voice, soft but teasing, almost playful. Little dreamer, walking where even eagles fear to rest. Do you seek the wind or chase a shadow? Tawa froze. The voice had come from behind a cluster of tall rocks. Slowly, he stepped closer, and out from the shade leaped a coyote, its silver-gray fur glinting under the sun. Its golden eyes sparkled with mischief. Tawa blinked. Did you speak? The coyote grinned, showing sharp white teeth. Oh, I can speak when the wind allows me to, little one. I am Kayetso, the wanderer of dunes. Many travelers have crossed this desert, few ever reached the mesa. Why are you going there? Tawa clutched his satchel protectively. The spirits called me. I must find the lost dance. Kayetso tilted his head, amused. The lost dance. You are brave, or foolish, perhaps both. The path is full of mirages and shadows that whisper lies. Even the strongest hearts have turned back. I can't turn back, Tawa said, his voice steady. The wind chose me. The coyote studied him for a moment, then gave a sly smile. Then perhaps you deserve a guide. But be warned, child of whispers, not all spirits wear masks of kindness. Some dance in darkness. Before Tawa could reply, Kayetso bounded ahead, his tail flicking like a trail of smoke. Come, if you can keep up. Tawa followed. The hours stretched long, and the heat shimmered like glass. As they climbed higher toward the mesa, strange things began to happen. The air thickened with sound, whispers overlapping words Tawa couldn't understand. He saw fleeting shapes in the dunes, dancers made of dust, vanishing when he blinked. At one point, he stumbled, his vision blurring. The coyote stopped and turned. The desert tests you, Kayetso said softly. You must remember who you are, or it will steal your breath. Tawa nodded weakly. He reached into his pouch, sprinkling cornmeal into the wind, as Nokomi had taught him. For the spirits of the land, he whispered. The air cooled, and the mirage faded. The whispers softened, no longer confusing, but gentle, like a lullaby. Finally, as the sun began to sink, they reached the base of the spirit mesa. Its cliffs rose high into the sky, glowing red and gold beneath the dying light. The wind whistled through the cracks, producing a low, mournful hum, the voice of the desert itself. Tawa gazed upward. So this is it, he murmured, the place where the spirits once danced. Kayetso's golden eyes narrowed. Yes, but tread carefully. Beyond this point, the shadows have their own keepers. As darkness began to fall, the coyote turned to leave. I go no further, little dreamer. My paws were not made for sacred ground. Tawa bowed. Thank you, Kachina. Will I see you again? The coyote's grin widened. If the wind remembers your name, and with that, he vanished into the dunes, leaving only a swirl of sand behind. Tawa stood alone at the foot of the mesa. The moon began to rise, casting long silver lines across the cliffs. The Kachina doll pulsed softly in his hands, its turquoise eyes gleaming like stars. Then, from somewhere deep within the mesa, came a whisper, darker this time, colder. The child walks where he should not. The keeper waits. Tawa shivered, but his resolve did not waver. He tightened his grip on the doll and began to climb. Each step took him closer to the heart of the legend, to the top of the and to the shadows that guarded it. The night had grown still and heavy, and the stars looked close enough to touch. Every rock under Tawa's feet seemed alive with whispers, voices that rose and fell with the wind, to faint, to understand, to haunting, to ignore. By the time he reached the plateau, the moon hung high above him, round and white like an unblinking eye. The desert stretched in every direction, glowing silver under the moonlight. But up here, the air felt colder, heavier, as though something unseen watched from the darkness. Tawa caught his breath and looked around. The surface of the mesa was smooth, almost polished, with ancient symbols carved into the stone circles, spirals, and lines that pulsed faintly when touched by moonlight. In the center stood a stone altar, cracked with age and draped in wind-blown sand. The Kachina doll in Tawa's hands began to hum softly, its turquoise eyes glowing brighter. "The spirits are here," he whispered, but another voice, deeper, slower, answered from behind him. "Yes, but not all spirits welcome the light." Tawa spun around. From the shadows between two rocks emerged a tall figure cloaked in black feathers, its mask shaped like a hawk's face but dark as obsidian. The air around it shimmered with cold energy, and where it stepped, the sand seemed to darken. "Who are you?" Tawa asked, clutching the doll tightly. The figure's voice was smooth as wind over stone. "I am Navik, keeper of shadows. Once, I too danced beneath the sun with the other Kachina, but when the humans forgot the sacred balance, I was cast out, for I sought to keep their devotion through fear." Tawa took a cautious step back. "You turned against them." The spirit tilted its head. "I only wanted them to remember. When they no longer offered prayers, I gave them storms and silence, so they would feel awe once more. But the others called me dark, and banished me to the shadows." Its eyes glowed red beneath the mask. "Now I guard what was lost. The dance you seek belongs to me." Tawa's voice trembled, but his courage held. "The spirit sent me to find the lost dance to bring balance back to both worlds." "Balance?" Navek sneered softly. "There is no balance, only power and silence. Give me the doll, child, and I will teach you the true dance, the one that commands the wind and bends the spirits to your will." Tawa's heartbeat quickened. "That's not what the whispers said." The spirit took a step closer. Its cloak of feathers rustled like the wings of crows. "The whispers lie. They want to chain you with duty. But I offer you freedom, the power to make the rain fall when you wish, to make the people bow to your song." The desert wind rose, circling them. For a moment, Tawa saw visions swirling in the air, himself standing tall upon the mesa, calling down storms, the villagers cheering his name. His heart fluttered with the temptation. Then he heard Elder Nokomi's voice in his memory. "Not all whispers come from the light." He closed his eyes and gripped the Kachina doll tightly. "The dance isn't for power, it's for balance." Navek's form flickered, and a growl echoed from within its mask. "Then you are a fool, and fools are swallowed by the shadows they pity." The spirit raised its hand, and black mist coiled from its fingers, snaking toiled Tawa like living smoke. The air turned icy, and the ground beneath him trembled. Taw had lifted the doll before him. Its turquoise eyes blazed with sudden brilliance, casting light that pierced through the darkness. The shadows recoiled, hissing, as if burned. "You carry the heart of the whispers." Navak roared. "But even light can fade." The spirit lunged forward, wings unfurling, and for an instant the world exploded in wind and light. Sand whirled in every direction, and Tawa felt himself lifted off the ground, spinning between darkness and brightness. When the storm subsided, he was on his knees, gasping. The keeper was gone, but its voice echoed faintly through the wind. "You cannot escape me, child. Light and shadow are bound. We will meet again." The air grew still once more. The moon glowed pale above him. Tawa clutched the Kachina doll, trembling. A gentle whisper followed, soft, familiar. "You chose well, little one. The dance remains pure." Tawa stood shakily. The carvings around the altar now glowed brighter than before, forming a faint spiral that led toward a narrow passage on the far side of the mesa. The voice spoke again. "Walk the spiral of the ancients. The truth awaits within the cave." He nodded, brushing sand from his face. The keeper's words still echoed in his heart, but he pushed them aside. The shadows had tested him, and he had listened to the light. With the Kachina doll glowing in his hands, Tawa stepped toward the dark passageway that led into the mesa's heart. The wind grew quiet as Tawa stepped through the narrow opening at the side of the mesa. The outside world faded behind him. The stars, the wind, even the rustle of desert grass disappeared, swallowed by a heavy stillness. Only the soft glow from the Kachina doll's turquoise eyes lit the way ahead, casting trembling shadows on the stone walls. The passage smelled of earth and time. Ancient carvings lined the tunnel, spirals, feathers, suns, and flowing lines that told stories too old for words. As he brushed his fingers across them, the symbols shimmered faintly, humming with unseen power. He remembered Nokomi's words. "The dance is not just movement, Tawa, it is the heartbeat of the world." The deeper he went, the more he felt it, a rhythmic pulse beneath his feet, faint but steady, like the slow beating of a drum buried within the stone. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The air was cool and damp, filled with a faint mist that glowed in the light of the doll. At the center of the cavern stood a circle of stone pillars, each carved with faces of Kachina spirits, some kind, some fierce, all watching silently. Tawa stepped forward in awe. Is this the place of the lost dance? The turquoise glow brightened, and the doll's voice, soft and gentle, yet ancient, filled the air. This is where the first dancers sang the world awake. Their steps carved the rivers, their songs shaped the clouds. Tawa swallowed hard. Then why did they stop? A pause, then a sigh that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Because men forgot to listen. The chamber trembled lightly, and one by one, the carvings on the pillars began to shimmer with light. From each face, a faint spirit form emerged, ghostly dancers draped in feathers, their masks glowing with blue and gold fire. They circled around Tawa, silent and graceful, their movements slow and sorrowful. Tawa's heart raced. Are you the ancient ones? A female spirit with a mask of rain clouds stepped closer. Her voice was soft as falling water. We are the echoes of what once was. You carry the voice of the whispers, child. But to restore the dance, you must remember what the people forgot. Tawa frowned. What did they forget? Gratitude, she said simply. They danced for rain, not for balance. They sang for harvest, not for harmony. They forgot that to give is as sacred as to receive. As she spoke, Tawa felt a warmth bloom in his chest, the same feeling he had during the festival when he offered his small pouch of cornmeal. A memory surfaced, the joy of giving, the quiet peace of thanking the earth, rather than asking from it. He nodded slowly. Then teach me the dance. The spirits raised their hands. The air filled with the low hum of flutes and drums, though no instruments could be seen. The mist thickened, swirling like clouds, and the dancers began to move in rhythm, slow, deliberate, their steps tracing ancient patterns across the stone floor. The Kachina doll in Tawa's hands began to vibrate gently, guiding his movements. He mimicked the steps, clumsy at first but growing steadier with each beat. He felt the pulse of the earth under him, the breath of wind around him, and the echo of thunder above. The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. Yes, listen with your heart. Each step is a word, each breath a prayer. Dance not to be seen, dance to remember. As Tawa continued, the carvings on the walls ignited in light, the whole chamber glowing with golden energy. The mist turned into ribbons of color, blue, gold, and white, swirling around him like waves. He was no longer just a boy. In that moment, he felt part of everything, the land, the wind, the sky, and the spirits themselves. Then the music shifted, the light dimmed, and a cold shadow rippled through the air. The spirits froze. A harsh voice echoed from the far end of the cavern. Still you dance for the light, while the shadow watches. Did you think I would not find you, little dreamer? Tawa turned. The keeper of shadows stood in the doorway, his feathered cloak blacker than night, his eyes burning red. The temperature dropped, frost forming on the stone floor. The spirit dancers trembled, their lights flickering. The rain-masked spirit whispered urgently to Tawa. The keeper returns. You must finish the dance. Only its final step can awaken the balance. Tawa's heart pounded. The Kachina doll glowed fiercely in his hands, pulsing like a heartbeat. He knew the dance wasn't over, and neither was the battle between light and shadow. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, raising the doll high. As then the keeper of shadows advanced, his voice trembling unfurled like a storm for the spirits swallowing the glowing mist, for the world, dimming the shadows surged toward him like a storm. His eyes gleamed red, the cave roared, burning like coals in the dark and light. You dare awaken them, he hissed. The age of light is over. The world belongs to silence now. Tawa held the glowing Kachina doll close to his heart. The turquoise light flickered, weak against the darkness, but still it glowed. His voice trembled, but he stood firm. The spirits are not gone. They only wait for someone who remembers. The keeper sneered. Then remember this. He raised his hand, and the darkness surged like a living wave. Shadows twisted into claws and serpents, rushing toward Tawa. Tawa stumbled back, shielding his face. The spirits around him flickered, fading shapes of wind and flame, struggling to hold their light. The rain-masked spirit appeared beside him, her voice barely audible. The dance, move with the wind, not against it. The steps will protect you. He took a deep breath, feeling the earth under his feet. The Kachina doll pulsed, its light syncing with the faint beat of unseen drums. Slowly, Tawa began to move. First, a single step, then a spin, then a sweeping motion of his arms that sent a ripple through the air. The shadow claw struck, but as it touched him, it shattered into smoke. The keeper roared, "Child of dust, you cannot stop me." Tawa didn't answer. He closed his eyes and let the rhythm take over. Each movement flowed into the next, graceful yet powerful like the desert wind bending through canyons. His feet marked the ancient symbols on the floor, glowing brighter with each step. All around, the spirits joined him. One by one, they began to dance, their ghostly forms spinning, gliding, rising like gusts of wind. Flutes and drums filled the air, their melody no longer mournful but fierce. Alive, the dance of balance, whispered the rain-masked spirit, long forgotten, now reborn. The chamber filled with swirling colors, turquoise, gold, and crimson light bursting from the ground. The air itself seemed to sing. For a heartbeat, the darkness wavered, but the keeper struck again. He raised both hands, and a storm of shadows erupted, swirling like a black hurricane. The cavern trembled. Cracks split the floor. Dust and stones rained from above. Tawa was thrown to his knees. The doll slipped from his grasp, rolling across the floor. Its light dimmed dangerously. No, Tawa gasped, crawling toward it as the wind howled around him. The keeper's laughter echoed, cruel and thunderous. You cannot win. The world forgets faster than you can dance. Tawa reached the doll, clutching it to his chest. Tears streaked his dusty face. Maybe they forgot, but I haven't. He pressed his hand to the floor, whispering a prayer. His grandmother once taught him a prayer of thanks, not of asking. For the wind that cools me, for the earth that holds me, for the light that finds me, I give thanks. The turquoise light flared. The cracks in the ground began to glow with the same color. The drum beats grew louder, faster, like the heartbeat of the world returning. The Kachina spirits encircled Tawa again, their voices rising in a chorus. He remembers. He dances. He gives. The shadow storm faltered. The keeper growled, struggling against the light. No, you cannot. But the wind shifted, now alive, now divine. A great spiral of glowing air and sand rose from the center of the chamber, carrying Tawa upward. His arms spread, the doll glowing brighter than ever. His dance became pure energy, light and motion fused into one. The keeper's form began to dissolve, torn apart by the storm of light. His voice faded into a whisper. The light always returns, until it forgets again, and then he was gone. Silence filled the cavern. The mist cleared, revealing the carvings on the walls, shining like stars. The spirits bowed deeply before Tawa. The rain-masked spirit smiled. You have completed the dance of balance. The Kachinas will be remembered once more. Tawa lowered the glowing doll, breathing hard. The light from it softened, gentle, warm, peaceful. Will I ever see you again? He asked. The spirit shook her head. You will not need to. The whispers will live within you now, and in every heart that remembers to give thanks. One by one, the spirits faded into motes of light that drifted upward like embers. The cavern grew still again, but not empty. The air now hummed with quiet harmony. The eternal rhythm of the earth restored. Tawa closed his eyes, listening to it. The heartbeat of the world, steady, alive, grateful. The first light of dawn spilled across the mesa as Tawa stepped out from the cave. The storm had passed. The sky stretched wide and endless, streaked with gold and crimson like the feathers of a celestial bird. He blinked against the brightness. The desert wind was gentle now, carrying the soft hum of awakening life. The cry of an eagle, the whisper of sand shifting, the laughter of water flowing far below. In his hands, the Kachina doll rested quietly, its turquoise eyes dimmed to a peaceful glow. It no longer pulsed with wild energy. Instead, it seemed calm, alive in a different way. Tawa paused at the cave's mouth and turned back once more. Inside, faint light still shimmered on the walls, the echo of spirits fading into silence. He bowed his head respectfully. Thank you, he whispered. Then, guided by instinct more than sight, he began the long walk home. By the time he reached his village, the sun stood high, painting the red cliffs with fire. The people were gathered in the square, faces weary and eyes filled with worry. The crops had withered more each day. The sky had been empty of rain for moons, and the sacred festival's joy had long since faded. When they saw Tawa dust-covered and trembling, the villagers ran to him. His grandmother, Nokomi, was the first to reach him. Her hands shook as she touched his face. Child, where have you been? We feared the spirits had taken you. Tawa smiled faintly, placing the Kachina doll in her hands. They didn't take me, grandmother. They showed me the way back. The elders gathered, studying the doll in awe. Its feathers glimmered faintly in the sunlight. A warm wind brushed through the square, gentle at first, then stronger, swirling dust and leaves into a soft spiral. Nokomi's eyes widened. The wind, it's singing. And indeed, it was. The air itself seemed alive, carrying faint notes like flutes echoing from the horizon. The villagers gasped as clouds began to gather over the mesas, pale and thin at first, then darker, heavier, promising rain. Tawa stepped into the center of the square. He closed his eyes and began to dance. At first, the people simply watched a boy moving with the rhythm of the unseen, his steps graceful and sure. But soon they felt it too, the heartbeat of the earth. The same rhythm that had once bound them to the world. One by one, they joined him. Elders, children, and mothers all began to move, clapping softly, turning with the wind. The flutes grew louder, though no one played them. Drums rumbled like thunder across the hills. Above them, lightning flashed, not in anger, but in joy. Rain began to fall, slow and warm, soaking into the dry earth. The villagers laughed, their tears mixing with the rain. Nokomi lifted her face to the sky. The Kachinas dance with us once more, she whispered. As the rain fell, Tawa looked down at the doll. It glowed softly, a faint turquoise light pulsing like a heartbeat, not of stone, but of life. Then, slowly, the light faded. The doll had given its spirit back to the world. He felt no sadness, only peace. That evening, the village gathered around the fire. The air smelled of wet earth and blooming sage. Nokomi spoke in her gentle, wise voice. Once, our people danced for what they wanted. Now, we dance for what we are given. And that is the truest song of the Kachina's gratitude. The people nodded, smiling at Tawa, who sat quietly by the flames. Later that night, when the others had gone to rest, Tawa walked alone to the edge of the mesa. The moon hung full and bright above the desert, silvering the sands. A soft wind rose, curling around him like a whisper. He could hear them faintly. Beautifully, the voices of the Kachina spirits, singing in harmony with the night. Remember, child, they murmured, the balance lives wherever there is gratitude. Tawa closed his eyes, breathing in the desert air, smiling through tears. I will remember, he whispered, always. The wind swirled once more, warm and gentle, a final touch, a blessing before fading into the endless horizon. And so the legend was born, the story of the boy who danced with spirits, who remembered when the world had forgotten, and whose heart carried the whispers of the Kachina spirits forever.